Hello everyone. So this video was linked to me in a discussion I was having with a flat earther on Facebook. He told me he'd give me $1,000 if I could debunk it, so I figured what the hell, I'll take him up on his challenge even though I know he's not actually going to fulfill his end of things. The original video is just over 40 minutes long, so I'll be breaking this into 4 parts. Also, this video is made by Hibbler Productions. As always, a link to the original is down in the description. And well, this video is incredibly deceitful, and the person who made it's a downright liar. I'm saying this not to poison the well, but because it's completely true. You'll see many instances of quote mining in an attempt to purposely deceive his audience, which I'll be pointing out and trying to supply the actual statements and context whenever I can. So, now that that's out of the way, let's get going.
Just our common sense everyday perception of the Earth, it is flat as far as we can tell. It is motionless as far as we can tell. And everything in the sky is revolving around us as far as we can tell. If nobody told us otherwise, we'd logically assume that the Earth was flat, motionless, with everything in the sky revolving around us. And you can prove that this is the case as well, for instance, with the horizon. As you rise up, no matter how high you go on the top of Mount Everest, or if you go in a balloon higher and higher, we've gotten independent balloons have gone up with cameras, the horizon remains flat all the way around and rises to the eye of the camera all the way up, totally flat, and rises to the eye of the observer.
The ground doesn't move. You can see further because of altitude. The higher up you go, the further you can see because you can see more and more over the curve as you gain in altitude. The equatorial circumference is 24,901 miles, and from pole to pole it's 24,860 miles. You can't expect to see that much of a curve. The problem with photos and videos of the Earth is that there's just too many unknowns. For example, what type of camera was being used, what was the horizontal field of view for the camera, what type of lens was being used, what was the horizontal field of view for the lens, what was the altitude, what was the focal length of the camera. These are all things that tend to be left out of flat Earth videos for one reason or another. Also, things like refraction and lens distortion need to be considered. You could have barrel distortion, which can cause flat lines to become convex, or pincushion distortion, which can cause lines to become flat or concave. I have 2 curvature calculators linked in the description. Go check them out and play with the numbers and see what you get. One of them, you can compare your results between what we see on a globe versus a flat Earth. The globe results are what we actually see in reality. It also has a wonderful description of refraction and how to calculate it, amongst other things. Now, if you go into the first calculator and plug in 100 miles at 30,000 feet with a horizontal field of view of 63 degrees, which is the field of view for an iPhone, and an image width of 1,000 pixels, the curvature you're going to see is only 7.5 pixels. To actually see a 2% curve, you're going to need to be around 210,000 feet in altitude. One last thing, don't confuse the curvature of the Earth to the curvature of the horizon. The horizon will always appear flat, but seeing the curvature is based on your perspective to an object and your altitude and what side of the angle that you view the object from. A perfect example of this is Soundly's Lake Pontchartrain Causeway observations, which you can see in the second calculator linked down in the description. That site has pictures of his observation, which matches perfectly to a simulation based on his data and us living on a globe. The beauty of his observations is that anybody can do it.
So that's one proof. Now, if the Earth were a ball, no matter how big, the horizon is said to be the curvature of the ball.
If you were to go to NASA, it's all fraud, it's all fake. Pretty much everything NASA puts out is fraudulent. There are no images of Earth from space. Put an end to this topic once and for all, turn the Hubble round and show us Earth in real time, but they will not do it. They can't do it. It doesn't exist. Literally doesn't exist.
Now, here's something flat earthers like to throw around a lot, but they can never produce any evidence of their claims. I know. The pictures are photoshopped or CGI. Well, NASA admits that they use Photoshop for some of their photos, and they explain what is done and why they do it. So there's no secrecy or hiding or dishonesty. More on that in a minute. Composite photos aren't CGI. Those are two completely different things. I can take 10 small pictures of the Chicago skyline, butt them up end to end so they make one big picture of the entire skyline. Is that fake? Is that deceitful? No. It's just one big picture made from a bunch of smaller pictures. If I put it in Photoshop and enhance some of the colors and contrasts so it looks nicer and some parts are easier to see, is that deceitful? No, because it's still the actual photos. This is the first photo of Earth from space. It was taken on October 4th, 1946 by a 35mm camera attached to a captured V-2 rocket and launched from White Sands Missile Range and at an altitude of 65 miles. Is this fake too? Was this photoshopped or CGI? Oh, wait, it can't be because those things didn't exist in 1946. This claim that there are no photos from space is an outright lie. In this clip, the guy asks, why don't they turn the Hubble around and take pictures of the Earth? Well, simple. Why turn the Hubble around when we have satellites that already have cameras facing and taking pictures of the Earth? There's the Himawari 8 that takes a picture every 10 minutes, which you can watch come in real time, and has taken over 48,000 photos of the Earth. There's also the Discover satellite with its epic camera that took the photos of the moon transiting past the Earth. So in fact, we actually have lots of photos of the Earth from space. The problem is that flat earthers refuse to accept reality or anything that contradicts their narrative. They'll go as far as to outright lie while they plug their ears, close their eyes, and go la 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 la, I can't hear you.
Looking at these images of Earth, including the one they called the Big Blue Marble, which was released in 2002, I think. Zoom into it with Photoshop, you'll see where they've used the clone tool in Photoshop to take a picture of one of the clouds and stamp it in various places around the picture. They got lazy.
Okay, so here we go. And of course, I will have links to all of this in the description, and I'll be reading directly from some of it. Now let's dive right into this 2002 Blue Marble thing. In an interview with Robert Simon, the guy who's credited with the picture, he states, quote, "Our team is purely about communication. We translate the data into usable and understandable form. Our writers and visualizers explain what we are seeing, and our web developers tell the world." End quote. The Blue Marble is a collection of over 10,000 photos taken by the Terra satellite and taken over the span of 100 days. The satellite uses 5 different systems that all do different things and take pictures that look very different from each other. They weren't taking these photos to make the Blue Marble picture. They were taking them to do actual science and study things like phytoplankton and CO2 levels in the atmosphere and other stuff like that. When the pictures were compiled, they used the ones that had no cloud cover. They put those together to give us full land masses, then enhanced the color, contrast, and saturation. Then they used a topographical map to bring out the texture in the landscape, and used a map of the clouds from 200 different pictures to add the cloud cover. Everything about the picture is made up from actual data from many, many pictures. Now, let's go back to my Chicago example I used earlier. Let's say I took those pictures and it was a nice clear day, but I wanted a little bit of fog. So I come back a couple days later and took pictures with fog cover. Unfortunately, it was gray and shitty outside, so the lighting sucked. I go home and pull the fog out of some of the pictures and put it over the originals that had great lighting. Would you call that fake, or would it still be the Chicago skyline?
If the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, there must exist a curvature drop of 8 inches times the mile when you square the mile. 1 mile means there should be an 8-inch curvature drop. 2 miles, 2 times 2 times 8 is 32. That's 32-inch drop. 3 miles would be a 72-inch drop. And this would exponentially continue. Here's the longest bridge in the world. The Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge in China. 102.4 miles long. There should exist nearly 7,000 feet of curvature drop in that bridge. 7,000 foot curvature drop. Do you see it? It ain't there. Look at the horizon. It's flat.
Well, here's a nice little flat earth lie. Flat earth asshole, and yes, that's the guy's name on YouTube who made this video clip, so I'm not calling him an asshole, is being incredibly dishonest, and the person that put this clip in the video either didn't bother to check into it or ignored the fact that the bridge shown is not the Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge and hoped that no one would notice or bother to check. This is the bridge shown in the picture. It's the Hangzhou Bay Bridge, and it's 22 miles long. It's shorter than the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. This is a portion of the Danyang-Kunshan Bridge. As you can see, if you compare the two photos, they look nothing alike. This bridge goes over rivers, canals, chasms, streams, flatlands, hills, lakes, rice paddies, over the river and through the woods. And yes, when it was designed and built, the curvature of the Earth was taken into account.
You can see in that dive shot that the inside camera, the horizon is completely flat. Then it goes to the outside, and you got a huge curve. But when you're looking at some of the amateur balloon footage, some of it's lens corrected and it's completely flat. And others, like the GoPro stuff, the horizon will fluctuate as the camera spins and tilts. The horizon will go convex and concave, a lens effect. It's obviously not the horizon shifting every 2 seconds as the camera jumps. Yeah. And when it's still, you can see all the way up, totally flat.
How incredibly dishonest the end of this chunk was. First, Dubé acknowledges that video and photos are taken with different types of camera lenses. Then he plays a clip showing the effects of the lenses warping the horizon from a convex curve all the way to a concave one. Then the liar plays the video back, pauses it at the portion where the horizon looks flat because it's in between the convex and concave distortion, and he says, "Look, it's flat." The video clip shouldn't be used to show a flat or curved Earth because of this distortion, yet Dubé uses it, and then, in an example of immense dishonesty, the person who made this video used it in a deliberate attempt to lie to his audience. Again, dishonesty. When you put the horizon in the center of the shot, photos like this are exactly what you're going to get. Tilting the camera down will move the horizon into the center of the frame. The center picture gives this away. Look at the plane's wing. The camera is focused at a downward angle to the wing, which would make the horizon move towards the center of the frame. Just one more example of how flat earthers have to lie to push their narrative.
NASA is essentially Hollywood, and all the images that you think you've seen of a spinning ball Earth are faked. And all the amateur balloon and rocket footage that we've sent up there shows a flat horizon that rises all the way up, and that's impossible on a ball.
So here the claim is made that the first video clip is a fisheye lens and the second is, quote, stock. First off, if the first clip was a fisheye lens, there would be a good bit of distortion, especially around the edges, and the curve would be greatly exaggerated. Secondly, the second video is shot at a lower altitude than the first. Then there's an attempt to say that the second clip is accurate by saying it's a quote-unquote stock lens. Well, in photography, the word stock means film hasn't been exposed or processed. That is undeveloped film, which this isn't. If he is saying that the lens is the default that came with the camera and therefore is somehow perfect and doesn't distort the image at all, I just have to say, how does he know? Neither Eric Dubé nor the person who made this video bought the camera or filmed the clip. Just more lies and unfounded assertion in an attempt to deceive people.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
But why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. Imagine what you know.
Well, the writers of Men in Black got some stuff wrong. People have known the Earth was a globe since Eratosthenes did his experiments and made his measurements around 240 BC. Yes, around the year 1000 AD, people still thought that we were the center of the universe. In the 16th century, Copernicus discovered that we orbit the sun and developed the heliocentric model. Then, people thought the sun was the center of the universe. In the early 20th century, we realized there were other galaxies and our understanding of the universe grew. Now we know that not even our galaxy is the center of the universe. This is just basic shit and shows how science refines itself and learns over time.
The horizon, for instance, is always completely flat, and you don't feel any motion. So if you were just born today and looked out, you wouldn't assume that you're standing on a spinning ball. You'd assume that you were on a flat, motionless plane. So to assume that we are on a spinning ball is actually contrary to our common sense and our everyday experience. And there's also experiments that have been done to test whether we're on a spinning ball or not.
Yes, to the average person, our horizon appears flat. That's because we aren't at enough of an altitude to see any curve. Also, there are times when we can, but just aren't paying attention. Go look at the Soundly videos of the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. He's in a hotel room on the 6th floor. How many people have looked out that exact same window and didn't notice any curve because they were looking at and for other things? Why would we feel the motion of the planet? Our reference points, the stars and other planets, are just too far away to get any sense of motion from them. We aren't bouncing or rocking like in a car or a train, and we're surrounded by an atmosphere. So it's not like sticking your head out of a car window. How does Dubé or the other guy who used this clip expect us to feel motion? The closest analogy I can think of here on Earth would be in a plane with the shades closed so that you can't see outside and there's no turbulence. You really don't feel any motion once you're at cruising altitude. Also, I just have to say that climbing a tower like this is a giant fucking nope. If I ever made it that high, I would probably shit my pants, freeze up, and be stuck like a damn cat in a tree. Oh yeah, all those experiments have shown that we are, in fact, on a spinning globe. Even flat earther Bob Nodell proved it with his $20,000 gyroscope. Of course, the dishonest fuck didn't like his findings, so he modified the experiment twice, and what do you know? He got the exact same results. Then he admitted on camera that his results posed problems for the flat earth. Then he did some mental gymnastics and bullshittery, saying it was heavenly energies affecting his tests. It's all right there in the Behind the Curve documentary. A side note to that, Bob and Jeranism have come under so much fire from the flat earth community because their experiments show curvature that they've removed all the videos from the Globebuster channel and are now in a state of damage control.
My question was, why, if it's a flat Earth, why couldn't you stand on the coast of California with a telescope and see Japan or Hawaii or something? And I think you know the answer to that. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah. You can't see an unlimited distance. The lowest layer is the densest and not transparent. So if you imagine like a hot, humid day, the haze over a road, all telescopes will eventually blur out in that same kind of way due to the air. So no, you can't see an infinite distance.
Funny how we can see through 300 miles of the Earth's atmosphere and see things tens of millions of miles away with a little backyard telescope. The first 10 miles of the Earth's atmosphere are the thickest, and that doesn't seem to pose a problem. And the question as to why we can't see Japan from the west coast of the US is assuming without fog, storms, and other weather-related issues. If it were clear, why can't we see long distances like that? I know why, and I'll give you a little hint. It begins with the letter C.
Is the Earth flat or round? It's round. Okay, now let's see. How do we go about proving that? Go to the seashore. Go to a seashore.
Watch as ships sail away. They don't disappear all at once.
No, first, the bottom will disappear.
See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. Now, ships came back. They didn't fall off the table. So people realized that the world is curved. I mean, it's a big curve, but it's curved. So, the process of testing claims, the world is flat, the world is round, is what we call science. Now, if you have a claim that can't be tested, that's what we call pseudoscience. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof.
Bill Nye's show was to demonstrate scientific ideas to kids. This was a demonstration for children. It's supposed to be entertaining and informative to children. Kids don't have the attention span to sit and watch hours of videos of boats at the beach. Bill's demonstration is adequate to explain reality.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof.
Boats don't disappear over the curvature of the horizon. Boats disappear due to perspective. All you have to do is go to the beach, watch a boat disappear from your eye, and then whip out your telescope, your binoculars, or your high-powered zoom on your camera, and you can pull the entire boat right back into view. Whole mass and all. Yeah, that's right. You think the boat disappeared? Just whip out your telescope, your binoculars, or your zoom camera. You bring the entire boat back into view, completely debunking everything Coy just told you. And here's my video proof.
Flat Earth Asshole's video actually showed the point of the horizon where the ship would start to go over the curve from his elevation. Now, watch as he zooms in. The furthest point of the horizon doesn't change. The water between the boat and the horizon line comes into better focus, but the distance remains the exact same. Did Flat Earth Asshole or the maker of this video actually look at that footage, or were they just hoping that you wouldn't notice? The former shows laziness, and the latter shows deliberate dishonesty. You pick. The second clip of the boat isn't long enough to show the boat going anywhere. How far did he think the boat would go in, 15 seconds? Seems a little cherry-picked and dishonest to me.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof.
Imagine that. You can debunk the curvature of the Earth yourself with just a simple zoom on your camera. Bye-bye, little boat.
The flat Earth? Well, that didn't stand up to tests. The round Earth did.
And you guys, come on. Everybody watches newscasts. You all use mobile phones. You all see airplanes fly around. You all go to see Ed Sheeran in concert one day in London, another day in Melbourne, Australia. This all depends on our fundamental understanding of the size of the Earth and its shape with extraordinary precision.
So, in case you're a flat earther and didn't understand what he just said, I'll try to break it down for you. If you have satellite TV, you are using satellites which aren't possible on a flat Earth. Some cell phones use satellites instead of line-of-sight towers. Flight paths and flight times would also be greatly different on a flat Earth. Got it? Good.
What the fuck did you just say?
The way we teach science is you're just some empty vessel and we pour the science into you and then you regurgitate it on an exam.
I have a feeling that was a dishonest quote mine. Let's see that in context.
They're not!
So, you know why? I think it is. The way we teach science is you're just some empty vessel and we pour the science into you and then you regurgitate it on an exam.
Right.
Whereas science is a way of thinking. It's a way of understanding and probing the operations of nature.
Oh look, surprise, surprise, it was. Funny how context makes a difference.
Because Earth, we know it spins once a day, yes?
Off to a great start.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. Gets wider in the middle, and so Earth throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning, and it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the pole. Not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
Yeah, chubby's a good word. It's like pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So it turns out the pear-shapedness is bigger than the height of Mount Everest above sea level. Well, let me just so you understand. We've been fed a lie our entire... I want to call it a lie. We've been fed...
It's a point of view thing, I think.
Earth has been misrepresented to us by...
Science!
Well, at least you didn't quote mine that. Too bad flat earthers don't understand subtlety and have to take things to a literal and exaggerated extreme. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the equatorial circumference of the Earth is 24,901 miles, and the polar circumference is 24,860. That's a difference of 41 miles. The Earth bulges 41 miles at the equator. You won't see that in a photo from space. His pear analogy was just to demonstrate that the Earth is wider below the equator like a pear is. But it's not shaped like the goddamn fruit. Could he have used a better analogy? Yeah, probably. But that's no excuse to misrepresent the statement by showing the Earth as an actual pear.
Pear-shaped. Pear-shaped.
Science!
So they're all trying to figure out, is the universe spinning around us, or are we spinning around the universe? They tell you, we don't know shit. We're looking at a bunch of lights in the goddamn sky. You're gonna tell me that light and that light, that's 250, 100 trillion light years away? How the fuck did you figure that out?
Well, don't they have an explanation for that shit?
No, exactly. That's what you just said right now. What you just said now is what everyone's natural reaction. Because anytime someone says anything about space, you automatically think, someone figured it out. You don't know the guy's name. You don't know the name of the experiment. You didn't look into it yourself. You just think when someone tells you, how far is the Earth from the sun? They'll say, 93 million miles away. Like you just, right. Everybody relies on someone figured that out and someone double checked it. You're going on what you read.
Using Eddie Bravo is just bad. That guy is nuts. He's nothing more than a meathead version of Alex Jones. Joe Rogan had both of them on his podcast, and they just sat there trying to one-up each other with crazy conspiracies. The guy is bonkers. Now, to unpack some of his shotgunning of crazy, he says that we just go by what we're told and we can't check some of this stuff out for ourselves. Well, he's just wrong. We can find the distance to the sun and moon. You just have to understand the mathematical formulas, go and make your measurements, do the math. You can see planets and stars. Yeah, it'll cost you a good chunk of change to buy a proper telescope, but you can do it. The video this guy showed of stars was taken with a P900 or P1000. Those are cameras, not telescopes. yeah, they have great zooms, but not to see stars. How about using the proper tool for the job, like, I don't know, maybe a telescope?
Right now, cosmology, they don't know what the fuck to do. You know what they found out? The cosmic microwave background shows that all the galaxies are on shelves lined up to us. That we're at the fucking center. They don't know what to think about it. There's a lot of controversy going on about it.
Well, that's just a bunch of crap. I would love to know where he got his source for that little nugget of nonsense. So that's all I've got for this video. Check out part 2 in the series, and if you like my videos, then hit that subscribe button and check out my Teespring store I got down in the description. The money I get from that, I'm going to try to use to buy a satellite tracker, eventually a drone, and some other stuff so I can do some cool experiments and make better content for you guys. As always, feel free to leave a comment, and thank you for watching.